Hey everyone, so today I am making a pistachio bundt cake from scratch. Usually when you look up a pistachio bundt cake recipe, it calls for a box cake mix, but not this recipe. It's 100% from scratch with all fresh ingredients. So I'm going to show you everything that we're going to need. First, you're going to need your bundt pan. As you can see, mine is not prepped yet, but you will need to butter and flour your pan. Next, you're going to need 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk, and make sure it's room temperature, 1 1/2 cups of granulated white sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 4 eggs, and make sure they're room temperature, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda, baking powder, 1/2 cup of pistachios. I'm using raw unsalted pistachios because that's my preference, but if you prefer roasted, that's fine too. You're going to need 1 box of instant pistachio pudding, 3/4 cup of unsalted butter, and make sure it's softened. That's about 1 1/2 sticks. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/3 cup of oil. I am using safflower oil because I don't like the fact that vegetable oil has soybeans in it, but you can use any oil that you want. Safflower, canola, vegetable, whatever you choose. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, before we get to the fun part, we need to make sure we preheat our oven to 325 degrees. Alright guys, so I'm going to start by taking my butter and I'm going to add it to my bowl. And again, that's 3/4 cup of butter, 1 1/2 sticks. I'm going to just take a little of the excess off the paper because I like to use that butter to prep my pans, which you'll see in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to save those butter papers for later. Okay, now I'm going to take my sugar, of course, add that to my bowl as well. Okay, and I'm also going to fit my paddle attachment to my mixer and begin to cream together my butter and sugar. You want to cream your butter and sugar together for about 3 to 5 minutes. You'll know when it's ready because it'll be light and fluffy. So while my butter and sugar are creaming together, I'm going to take a separate bowl and mix my flour, cornstarch, baking powder, and salt together. Now, of course, you should sift, but at the time of filming this, my sifter was broken, so I just took a whisk to mix all of my ingredients together well. But of course, sifting is the better way to go always. And when you're done, just set your bowl to the side. And now I'm going to take that butter paper from earlier, and I'm going to take the excess butter and wipe it on the inside of my pan really well. I use the paper because it has lots of butter on it. I don't want anything to go to waste. And I'm going to take my fingers and just make sure that every crevice of the bundt pan has butter on it. Now I'm going to grab some flour and just dust the inside of the pan with the flour to make sure it's entirely covered. But I'm going to do that over the sink so I don't make a mess. And I'm going to stop the mixer and just scrape down the sides of the bowl and start it back. So next I'm going to grab my pistachio pudding mix and add it to my creamed sugar and butter. While that's mixing, I'm going to grab my cutting board and 1/2 cup of pistachios, and I'm going to begin to chop them up into smaller pieces. If you prefer your pieces of pistachio to be more coarse, that's fine too, but I'm going for a medium fine chop, so I'm going to continue to chop them up until I get the consistency that I want. And guys, I made a really big mistake here. I'm supposed to be adding eggs right now, but as you can see, I totally screwed the pooch. I begin to add my nuts, my pistachios, before adding my eggs. That is totally wrong. If I can turn back the hands of time, I so would, and I would fix this and do it right. But since I can't and what's done is done, we're just going to keep going. But don't be like me. Just follow the directions and do it right. So since my pistachios are already added in, we're going to go ahead and get them mixed. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs one at a time. That's egg number 1. Egg number 2. And of course you want to mix the eggs in a little bit before each addition. Third egg. And finally, here comes egg number 4. So here I have my buttermilk, and I'm going to take 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and add it to the buttermilk. And I'm also going to take my 1/3 cup of oil and add it to the buttermilk as well. And I'm going to stir that till it's well combined. And that's all my wet ingredients. So now I'm going to take my flour mixture and I'm going to alternate adding that to the mix with my buttermilk, starting with the flour. And I made a mess. No, I didn't. Okay, now I'm gonna do buttermilk, and just continue to alternate till you mix all of your ingredients. You're gonna start with flour and end with flour. I'm going to stop the mixer now and just scrape down the sides of the bowl again. So I'm going to let the batter mix for another minute or so, not long, just until everything's well mixed. And I'm going to stop my mixer and I'm going to grab my prepared bundt pan. So as you can see, guys, I was tired of using that small spatula, so I went to go grab a bigger spatula. And I'm going to just give this a final stir just to make sure everything's mixed well. So now I'm going to take my batter and just slowly pour it into my prepared pan. This batter is very, very thick. You can even spoon it in if it's better for you. So after I get all of the batter out of the bowl, I'm going to take my spatula and just evenly smooth the batter in the pan. I want this to be as even as possible, so I'm just going to get all that batter, and you'll see I'm going to just go around and slowly just evenly disperse the batter around the pan so it's a nice even layer. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and grab a dish towel and I'm going to lay it on my counter, and I am going to just smang the hell out of my pan just to make sure that any air pockets or bubbles get released during this time. Nobody wants a cake with holes in the middle. But this cake is all set and ready to bake at 325 for 1 hour. Everyone's oven is different, so you should always check maybe at the 50-minute mark. Sometimes it takes up to 1 hour and 10 minutes depending on your oven, but I would just do a toothpick check and see. So while my cake is in the oven, I decided to make a glaze for the cake. Here I have 1 cup of powdered sugar, about 6 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, some vanilla extract, and some pistachios for garnish. So I'm just going to speed this up, and you're going to see that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of heavy cream to the sugar until I get a nice smooth consistency. And in my cup I had about 6 tablespoons, and you'll see that that ended up not being enough, so I had to go into the fridge and get more. But after going to get more, I added a few more spoons and it gave me a nice smooth glaze. And I added the vanilla to the glaze. If you want a good flavor accent for a pistachio cake is almond. I would use it very sparingly though, maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. That would give it a nice flavor as well. Okay, so here's my glaze, and here comes my cake. Okay, so I'm just going to take my spatula and just kind of drizzle my glaze over the cake all over. You can also pour it over if you want a more consistent look on your cake, but I just wanted a more of a drizzle. So before my glaze begins to set, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on a little bit of chopped pistachios for garnish. I just coarsely chopped about a 1/2 cup of pistachios, and I'm just going to sprinkle them on top before the glaze actually sets so that they actually stick to the glaze. And that's it, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thanks for watching.